The day of the plane crash marked the 3rd anniversary of my marriage with Maria. She thought I was still giving her the silent treatment, but I was already dead. It wasn't until the guy she once had a crush on needed surgery, and I was the only specialist who could help, that she tried to reach me. She left countless messages. I need you urgently. Stop being mad. Can we just say it was my fault this time? Vincent, I'm giving you a chance to make up. Are you really not going to take it? If you keep this up, I might not want to continue. Victor's condition can't wait. I know you've always had issues with him, but this is life or death. Can you put that aside? That evening, she got a call from the airline. They needed her to come the next day to identify her husband's remains and belongings. The moment the plane went down, I instinctively looked beside me. The seat next to me was empty. Maria, who had agreed to go on a vacation to France with me, at the last minute, was eager to meet Victor instead after learning he was back. I had sent her the flight details, but she told me to cancel. She said Victor was ill and needed someone to look after him, and she was his only friend in Y City. She mentioned how family pressure was the only reason she and Victor drifted apart. That night, I smoked non-stop and asked if she was sure about her decision. She didn't lift her head while packing. There are so many holidays. Do we really need to go on this one? I suppressed my frustration and smiled bitterly. Maria, I cleared my schedule, worked overtime for months, and had meetings until my stomach bled. How does that count? She lowered her face and angrily smashed a mirror to the floor. How can a grown man be this petty? You just don't want me to go. When the mirror shattered, something inside me broke too. She slammed the door on her way out. Maria, some things can't be undone once they're gone. But when I tried to stop her, she never looked back. Now, there really was no going back. I boarded the plane to France alone, and halfway there, the flight experienced a major accident. No one on board survived. Since the crash site was far from home, it took a while for the airline and authorities to confirm my death. But I couldn't let go and somehow drifted back to her. The day she went to see Victor, I was there too. I watched her put on perfect makeup in the car and smile brightly upon seeing him. She carried a pot of spare ribcorn soup and some milk for Victor. When Victor frowned a little, she urged him to sit and relax. I overheard Victor expressing concern. Isn't this inappropriate since you're married? What husband would be okay with this? She casually replied, he can't control me. Plus, you're my friend, and I'm just checking on you. I've had enough of this marriage for years. If he complains, we can just divorce. Took me this long to realize this was how she felt. I remembered her hesitant I do on our wedding day and how she hadn't smiled like that in 3 years of marriage. Maybe this marriage was a mistake from the start. We shouldn't have been together. She despised any contact from me, avoided intimacy, and rejected all affection. Looking back, it seemed like she'd wanted out of our life for a while now. I watched days pass with her by his side. Then one day, after returning from the hospital, she learned I was the only doctor who could do the surgery. That's when she called me. A mechanical voice responded to her call. The number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. To leave a message, press. Frustrated, she repeatedly dialed, eventually angrily leaving a message. I need you urgently, stop being mad already. Can we just say it was my fault this time? Vincent, I'm giving you a chance to make up. Don't forget you chased me first. If you keep this up, I might not want to continue. Call me back. Victor's condition can't wait. I know you've always had issues with him, but this is life or death. Can you put that aside? Naturally, I never responded. I watched her get upset and almost break something until realizing she wasn't home. She nervously chewed her nails. Victor tried to calm her down. Once she settled, she offered to make more soup and meals. Halfway through, her phone rang. Maria dashed over to answer it, giving Victor a reassuring look. Hello? I thought you were dead. Why haven't you picked up your phone in so long? She complained. Is this Maria? Seems you've seen the news. We're sorry to inform you. The voice continued, but I noticed a change on Maria's face. She asked, is this some new scam? Trying to sell insurance this way? Sounding confused but not believing it. She thought it was a marketing call until they confirmed her identity and mentioned the news from a few days ago. She hung up abruptly and rushed to her computer, her hands shaking as she typed. The screen turned black and white, matching the ticket I sent her. Her face went pale. She picked up her phone and dialed a number I instantly recognized. It was my colleague and best friend Mike. When Mike answered, she immediately yelled, "Where's Vincent? Sis, you didn't hear?" Mike sounded startled by her question. "What do you mean? What game are you two playing now? Tell him this is his last chance. Call me back. There's something important. He can't anymore." Mike's tone turned colder. "I knew it. You both must be together. No, seriously, you have a way of jinxing people." Mike laughed bitterly. "How could you not know your own husband is gone? Now you're wishing it on his friend too." I always thought Mike was kind and handled work in a meticulous, efficient way. I never saw him as someone with a sharp tongue. He knew how much I cherished Maria, so he was always quite polite to her. "Mike," I called. "Over here. Oh, by the way, I heard my old classmate might be back. You wouldn't be at his place now, would you? I had warned him before that you're not a good woman, but he stubbornly wanted to marry you. Well, now look what's happened. He's practically ruined. Do you even have a conscience, Maria?" Maria was so mad she couldn't help but smash something. Rather than being upset about the news of my death, she seemed more bothered by Mike's harsh words. Turns out, they're all just a bunch of fair-weather friends. After breaking the object, she turned to see Victor clutching his chest. "What's wrong? Chest pains again?" she asked anxiously. A fine sweat appeared on Victor's forehead. He shook his head slightly. "I know my own condition. Don't worry too much. If it comes to it, it's just my fate." "No way. I'm calling a specialist for you right now." Looking at her filled with worry and care, she appeared like a stranger to me. She'd never lost her composure like this in front of me before. Only ties to Victor seemed to bring this out in her. My life or death didn't seem to matter as much as his condition right now. Before getting on the plane, I hoped she might reconsider and come find me. I sent her a screenshot of the boarding gate and my ticket, but before I turned on airplane mode, there was nothing, no response in the chat. She was probably busy picking out his breakfast at that time. 10 years on, and she still remembers he loves milk, bringing him soup with rib broth that suits his taste. But my preferences weren't a priority for her. After loving her for all these years, what was I really hoping for? Suddenly, I felt kind of pathetic. Only now did I realize that her heart seemed to be one I could never warm up. Tomorrow, she'll probably be emotionless when she confirms my death with her own eyes. Thinking this, the once painful spot in my heart felt like it had opened up, empty. I could watch them in front of me without feeling anything, not a trace of emotion. After the call, Maria continued simmering the ribs on the stove. She wore a cartoon kitten apron, half of her hair tied up, and she tasted a piece of meat as she prepared the table. It looked quite appetizing. I remembered her once claiming she couldn't cook, which made me laugh. Turns out it depends on whose she's cooking for. "Taste these ribs. Tell me if they're cooked well?" she asked, placing some ribs in Victor's bowl. They exchanged a smile. To an outsider, they'd probably call them a loving couple. Over the past 3 years, I tailored recipes in accordance with her tastes. Even though others praised my cooking, I never once saw her smile at the dinner table. "Last time you said it was a bit tough, so I researched the right heat and simmering techniques for ages." She frowned, rummaging through her bag. "What y'all looking for?" "It's nothing, just dry hands. I need some lotion." She smiled, applying a thick layer of hand lotion that I had bought for her. After realizing she had dry hand issues, I never let her near the kitchen, taking care of all the housework myself. But now I found out that she was willing to do it for someone else. After dinner, Victor handed Maria a pair of waterproof gloves, saying it would help keep her hands clean while doing the dishes. I saw Maria smile, though it stiffened for a moment. On her way home, Maria's hands, after touching water, started to peel and turn red. She rushed to the cabinet upon arriving home, searching for the first aid kit. She dished out a bunch of medicine, but none seemed to be the cream I usually gave her. Finally, she grabbed a random one, applying it and enduring the pain till it took effect. Relaxing her tense eyebrows, she suddenly noticed a note in my handwriting on the box. If your hands feel uncomfortable, use this twice daily. Avoid water. She stared at the post-it note for a while, then scoffed. A plane crash? Huh? Fine. Tomorrow I'll see what kind of trick you're pulling. Maria refused to believe what the airline and Mike told her. Even if it was true, she thought it was one of my schemes. She intended to head over to that so-called address today to expose my lie. But before getting in the car, she got a call, immediately becoming anxious. No need to guess, the call was definitely from Victor. I sat in the passenger seat, watching her run several red lights, finally stopping at Victor's house. Opening the door, there he was curled up on the floor. Victor, are you okay? Don't scare me like that. She tried to lift him, but her petite frame couldn't bear his weight. She called an ambulance and followed it to the main city hospital. But she didn't wait outside the ER. Instead, she passed by my office, peeking inside. Unfortunately, one of my colleagues was in there, not me. My desk was empty. A nurse approached to inform her that the patient had passed the danger point and was transferred to a standard room. In the room, Victor slowly awoke, moved by Maria, saying, "If you hadn't come, I wouldn't know what to do." "Don't say that." Maria handed him a glass of water. Victor noticed her distraction. "What are you thinking about?" "Nothing, just didn't sleep well last night." Maria smiled. Was it me bothering you?" Victor hesitated, suggesting, "There's room on the bed since it's wide enough. Why don't you lay down to rest?" His ears turned red as he spoke. Unexpectedly, Maria declined immediately, but seeing Victor's awkward face, she deflected, "Drink some water first. I'll cut you an apple. The doctor says you need vitamins daily." Victor took the water, sipping it slowly. But she couldn't even take care of herself, let alone these tasks. Sure enough, I saw Maria's finger skin had been cut after hearing a low gasp. Noticing Victor didn't see it, she quietly wrapped it with a paper towel and handed the peeled apple to him. Victor glanced at the apple, seeing most of its flesh was removed, and immediately burst into laughter. "Maria, it's surprising how bad your fruit peeling skills still are after all these years." Maria tried to laugh along, but her smile seemed forced and awkward. Back when I was around, she never had to do anything. She'd just ask and it was done for her. I peeled shrimp and put it on her plate, sliced fruit and served it to her, making everything I did seem just part of her normal. Once, when she made me instant noodles when I returned late and famished, I was pleasantly surprised. I always kept her on a pedestal. Now, being teased, she probably feels embarrassed. After Victor finished the apple, the two started chatting about old times. When the topic of Maria and my marriage came up, Victor suddenly sat up, held her hand and said, "I really liked you back then. If I had been more proactive, do you think I might have had a chance to stand by your side?" His words were full of regret, and even I felt a bit moved listening. But Maria let out a loud cry. Startled, Victor quickly let go and noticed the wrapped wound on Maria's hand, now bleeding again from the pressure. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Maria. I didn't notice. Did you do this while peeling the apple?" Victor apologized frantically and, in frustration, gave himself a couple of slaps. Despite his delayed realization of her injury, Maria chose to forgive him because of his sincerity. She called a nurse to dress the wound, turning to comfort the man, who was all teary-eyed and full of self-blame. I knew she couldn't stand to see Victor cry. Once, when she wanted a divorce and I pleaded with her, she told me I hate men who cry the most. But Victor was an exception to every rule for her. Even if she knew she shouldn't stay up, she'd stay on the phone with him all night if he called saying he couldn't sleep. If Victor asked her to stay this time, I'm sure she'd agree. Yet, I saw a change in Maria's expression. Her tired eyes showed just a hint of fatigue, and she quietly refused. "It's late. I'll come see you tomorrow." Victor seemed a bit surprised at her response, but didn't say anything. "Okay, get some rest then." Watching her press her temples on the way back home, I knew her insomnia-induced migraines were acting up. Ever since we were together, I have known about her serious insomnia. For someone with chronic insomnia, it affects your daily life, even if others might see it as just a minor problem. I've seen her break down emotionally from lack of sleep many times, even getting depressed. That's why, apart from the hand cream at home, there were many things to help with insomnia too. In my care, her condition actually improved a lot. But as soon as I wasn't there, her symptoms returned quickly. After all, who would willingly lose sleep at night and use fairy tales to calm an adult other than me? 20 minutes later, Maria returned to our home. In the dim, unlit room, the dark circles under her eyes were even more noticeable. After washing up, she changed into her silk pajamas, put on her eye mask and earplugs, and laid down in bed. But it wasn't long before she shot up, took a deep breath, and lay down on her side, muttering something to herself. I could guess she was counting sheep. I had told her many times that at this level, counting sheep wouldn't help anymore. It wasn't long before she grew restless again. Turning on the night light, she opened a bottle of melatonin from the nightstand, popping 2 into her mouth. Worried it wasn't enough, she grabbed another handful and stuffed them in her mouth. If I had seen this in the past, I'd be both mad and worried. I bought all our medications and knew melatonin side effects. This showed how desperate she was. Indeed, 3 hours of sound sleep later, Maria suddenly got out of bed and rushed to the bathroom. I could hear her throwing up. Yet, I felt a twisted satisfaction in hearing it. Throw up. It makes me feel better knowing you're suffering like this. Watching her pale face return to bed, I felt an odd sense of joy. Once she was out, it seemed she gave up trying to sleep. The phone's light shone brightly in the dark. She opened the voice memo app. Seeing the list, I remembered I once took her phone and recorded bedtime stories myself. After tapping one, my own voice played softly and clearly. The little rabbit and the turtle were racing in the forest. They invited many forest friends to be judges. But the monkey judge got lost, and they waited and waited, only seeing him after a long time. Though it was my own recording, I found it nauseating now. Back then, I was focused on ensuring she'd sleep well. Now, every recording felt like proof of my foolish past. All my heartfelt efforts had gone to waste. Finally, Prince Glory welcomed his princess. They would hold a grand wedding at the castle. As the third recording ended, Maria's long lashes lowered as her breaths became soft and steady. She was asleep. A few hours later, the morning sunbeam lit up the balcony. Maria was still asleep when her phone's ringtone broke the tranquility. Annoyed, she rubbed her eyes and answered. I heard Victor's voice on the other end. Maria, did I disturb your rest? He asked cautiously. No. Maria rubbed her forehead and asked him casually. What's up? I had some boxed lunch at the hospital today, and suddenly I'm really craving some of that rib soup you used to make. He didn't hear a response, so he quickly added, It's no big deal, honestly. If it's too much trouble, forget I mentioned it. It's just your cooking is so good. It spoiled me. As I expected, Maria didn't turn him down. She quickly changed, grabbed her keys, and headed out the door. I was a bit puzzled. Wasn't she going to make soup? Maria actually went to a restaurant, ordered some rib soup to go, and took it to the hospital. That's when it hit me. She was worried Victor might get hungry and couldn't wait, so she picked some up instead. Mike was right. I was totally blinded by love back then. He said Maria had a crush on Victor for years. When I asked her about it, she insisted they were just friends. And I believed her, even made Mike apologize, which led to an awkward situation for all three of us. But these days, it's clear as day. If it weren't for me, they might have gotten together a long time ago. It's only because of our family's ties that she didn't want to tarnish our marriage and kept her feelings to herself all this time. Getting to the hospital took less than 30 minutes. Victor knew Maria couldn't say no to him. As soon as he got the rib soup, he started sipping it with a smile. After a sip, though, he looked puzzled. Why does it taste different from the one you made at my place? Maria glanced at her watch and said nonchalantly, Oh, I got it from a restaurant. Victor looked visibly disappointed but forced a smile. It's still good though, just missing that homemade touch. Maria frowned a bit. As long as it's nutritious, right? I mean, my cooking isn't that great. Victor seemed taken aback, like he'd never seen this side of her before. Realizing her slip, Maria added quietly, I have dry hand syndrome. It gets worse when I'm in water a lot. Then she placed a business card on the table. Here's the delivery number for the restaurant. Next time, just order it yourself. Not waiting for his reaction, she said she had someplace to be and left quickly. But she didn't leave the hospital. Instead, she sought out a nurse to ask some questions. I remembered she mentioned finding a consultant for Victor before, so I followed her to a waiting room. All I could do was chuckle. She probably didn't know that in the hospital, besides me, no one could perform such a complicated surgery. Let's see what kind of expert she found. As the door opened, I instantly recognized the voice inside. I looked up and saw it was the neurology department. Isn't that where Mike works? When he saw her, Mike didn't look surprised. He joked, "Maria? What's up? You lose your mind or something?" "You." Maria's face turned red with anger. Seeing her frustration, Mike looked puzzled. "Not here for a checkup? Then why are you here? Oh, and be mindful of your location when you talk." Maria was already in a huff and her questions came out a bit harsh. "Where is he?" Mike knew exactly who she meant but played coy. "Told you, didn't I? He's dead." Seeing her doubt, he added, "If you really don't believe me, ask at the airport. See if he was on the plane when it went down. Is it just you? Or are you scared?" Mike knew just what button to push. Scared of what? Maria shot back instinctively, but she looked like she'd had enough and closed her eyes. "Forget it, I won't argue with you. Just tell him to go home. I'll explain everything to him later. There's nothing going on with Victor and me. I hurt him once before. Now, as a friend, I just want to help him." I saw the vein on Mike's temple pulse as he seemed to hear a ridiculous joke. He burst out laughing for a moment before his expression turned sharp. "Hurt him before, you say? And your husband, who's suffered day in and day out. Does he not matter? Have you ever asked about his pain, his suffering, his endurance? What did I do to him? He's a regular at our gastroenterology department. You didn't know, did you?" Mike paused, noticing Maria's confused look, and scoffed. "Don't know if he's dead or alive, why sweat a little internal bleeding? For a moment, had you ever considered properly living with him? He wouldn't drown his sorrows in drink daily." Looking at the stunned woman, Mike sighed deeply. "You really do treat that jerk like a treasure, Maria. Maybe you should get to know exactly what your crush has been up to before placing him on that pedestal." Maria had no idea, but I knew a bit. When I hired a private investigator to dig up Victor's past, she found the report and we had a huge fight that night before I could even finish the first page. She hid it away. Back then I warned her Victor wasn't a good man. Maria looked hesitant, but she defended him fiercely. "I know what he's like better than you all. On graduation day, I got cornered by those thugs in an alley, and if it wasn't for him stepping in, I don't know what would have happened. So that's how it is." Mike seemed to have figured something out. "Looks like you've been fooled for years," he said, whipping out his phone to show her his old chats. "These are the texts he sent when he borrowed money from me. Everyone in our class knew, even his circle, this kid loves to get money off innocent rich girls, using his heart condition for sympathy. Some of the thugs he mentioned were seen smoking and gaming with him at an internet cafe. You wouldn't have guessed?" Maria couldn't believe it. "No way. He was beaten half to death, plus he had a heart condition. They wouldn't dare risk it." Round and round, it's still those three words. She didn't believe it. Mike spread his hands as if to say, "If you're not going to believe what you should and you insist on fooling yourself with what you shouldn't, I got nothing more to say." When Mike showed her out, Maria had a complicated look on her face. I watched as she got into her car and set her GPS for the Y City International Airport. This moment had to come eventually. There were still quite a few reporters near the airport, but they were all blocked outside and couldn't get in. Maria went to the information desk. After she asked her question, the standard smile disappeared from the staff member's face, replaced by a look of grief as they led her to the conference room. As the door opened, it was filled with cries and wails. Maria walked to a spot marked 23. On the table was a piece of white paper and a black package. She started shaking all over, like she was nervous and scared. I chuckled to myself. What's she putting on a show for now? If I died, wouldn't she be the one who's happiest? Amid the silence, a few people arrived. The man leading them looked older, like he was airport management. "Since we couldn't wait any longer for you to arrive, The remains were sent to the main city hospital a few days ago for preservation, he explained. When Maria didn't react, another woman slowly added that they had tried to contact her husband's parents, but they were abroad and couldn't get in touch to understand the situation in time. These are the last belongings of your husband, collected against his identification, she said as they expressed their condolences. These are Vincent's? Maria asked, looking lost. They exchanged confused glances before confirming again. The paperwork was there, black and white. Finally, she believed it. I had indeed died in a plane crash. On the day we had planned to spend in France celebrating our wedding anniversary. She opened the black package. Inside were our marriage certificate and a completely worn-out leather wallet. That marriage certificate was the only photo of us together. She seemed incredulous, flipping open the wallet. Besides a bank card and an ID, there was still that red-backed photo. What was calm before turned frantic as she kept repeating, "Impossible, impossible." Then she suddenly closed her eyes and collapsed. The scene turned chaotic. Medical staff rushed over, placed her on a stretcher for examination. Throughout it all, she kept clutching that damaged photo in her hand. I looked at it and thought it was a real eyesore. People always say marriage is the grave of love. But maybe from the start, from the day I fell in love with her, from the day she agreed to marry me, Vincent was already dead. When Maria woke up, she went to claim my remains at the main city hospital. As she walked out, she ran into Mike, who'd heard the news. He didn't seem to notice how pale she looked and just kept mocking her. "Are you acting again? Isn't this what you wanted? To be rid of him? Now you can get away clean and go find that guy." But this time, no matter how much venom he spewed or how nasty his words got, Maria seemed numb, just staring at our marriage certificate photo. Mike got bored and left. She didn't show up on the day of the funeral. I don't know if she didn't dare to come or just thought it was pointless. My mom went to find her. That gentle woman tried to console her, saying my death was an accident, and no one was to blame. But those words seemed to trigger her, making her cry and beg my mom to forgive her. Two women I once loved most ended up crying together. Actually, my mom had some resentment inside. She knew Maria wasn't as good to me as I made her out to be. But I always spoke so well of my wife to her, protecting her image so fiercely. That was why my mom was so accepting. Seeing my mom cry such heartbreaking tears made me sad and regretful. A white-haired person sending off a black-haired one. This life, I failed to be a good son. I was so focused on Maria in the latter half of my life. I didn't even realize my mom's hair had gotten so much whiter. Before leaving, my mom asked Maria if Vincent left behind any items or last words. She seemed jolted by a thought but remained silent. My mom left disappointed. After she left, Maria turned on her phone, scrolled through to the bottom, and finally found my unread messages to her. Lately, her insomnia seemed to have worsened. I saw her go days without sleep, only able to rest peacefully for a few hours after listening to my recorded voice notes. Serves her right. Maybe she'll just drive herself crazy. I watched her pathetic act and felt disgusted, especially when she heard the last message on the list. A recording of her breathing while she slept and my saying goodnight. That pushed her over the edge. She was tormented by migraines, looking pale and puffy-eyed, just like the ghostly women from the horror movies we watched together. Back then, she'd scoff at women who were so dumb they'd die and come back to haunt men over love. It's all just what TV shows made up. But looking at her now, she wasn't much different. Victor called her a few times, but Maria hung up each time. He resorted to showing up at her door. When she opened it, Victor was shocked. She looked more like a patient at death's door. He was worried sick for her. He voluntarily said he bought some groceries to take care of her. He even made the effort to get fresh shrimp and crabs early in the morning. But seeing the half-finished state, he was clearly not much of a cook. Maria treated him like he was invisible from start to finish. "Wow, Maria, when was the last time you cleaned out your fridge?" Victor exclaimed, snapping her out of her daze as he pulled out a storage box. She snatched it away. A pink sticky note was attached. I suddenly remembered. There were still some bento meals and snacks I had prepped for her in the fridge. But considering a week had passed since I left, they'd surely have gone bad by now. No matter how well you store something in the fridge, once it's past its shelf life, it's going to rot. She acted like she had found some treasure, rummaging through everything in the fridge. Mapo tofu, spicy boiled meat, potato chicken wings. I carefully wrapped all these dishes with cling wrap and noted their shelf lives. Preparing them took me several days. Seeing all this good food go to waste just felt like such a shame. Maria, what are you doing? This is spoiled, you can't eat it. A man's startled voice echoed, and I turned to see Maria with tears streaming down her face, stuffing the chicken wings into her mouth with her bare hands. He dragged her to the kitchen and had her drink a bunch of salt water until she threw up the spoiled food. I was starting to wonder if she hadn't slept in so long that her brain was fried. Victor seemed to share my doubts. He felt Maria's forehead, but she wasn't running a fever. He figured she was just starving and brought her to the dining table. Maria stared blankly at the peeled crabs and shrimp before her, then looked at the man with a face full of self-satisfaction. Did you make this yourself? Sure did. Go on, eat. I know you must be hungry. The next moment, to Victor's shock, she shoved all the plates off the table. Ceramic shattered everywhere, and the red oil seeped into the white carpet, leaving a sinister streak. What the hell is wrong with you? Watching him jump up in anger, Maria forced a smile. You didn't know I'm allergic to seafood? Or do you think I deserve to die too? Victor felt a bit guilty hearing the first part, but by the end, he figured she was seriously messed up. He patiently cleaned up and went quietly to make her a bowl of noodles. He tried to feed them to her, but she turned her nose up. Too bland, my tastes are strong. I can't eat this. Victor couldn't hold back anymore. You think you're a princess or something? If I didn't need you, I wouldn't be here cooking for you, dealing with your picky nonsense. Are you serious? Maria wasn't surprised by his change in attitude. Yes, I don't have the life of a princess, but I act like one, she said calmly. I can't help you. The only doctor who could save you was my husband. Where is he? Dead. Victor didn't believe it, until she showed him that white paper with my certificate of death and her signature. See, most people wouldn't put up with me, but he was patient enough to make my useless recipes and cook for me every day. He remembered my tastes leaned heavy, always willing to eat hot pot with me, although he'd get sick every time. Such an idiot. I'd always scare him, threatening divorce, but sometimes I just liked bullying him. So, am I really terrible? She rambled on, oblivious to the storm brewing in Victor's eyes. When Maria asked him to leave, Victor refused. She saw the phone she'd just placed on the table in Victor's hand. If you cooperate, everything will be fine. Didn't peg you for someone who enjoys kids' stories. Maria's eyes narrowed. Give me back my phone. Victor did hand it back. Her voice memo list was blank. As if he knew what she'd ask, Victor spoke first. Man, the stuff that guy said was disgusting, so I deleted it for you. Get out. Maria, summoned strength from who knows where, charged at Victor and slapped him across the face. After taking the slap, Victor's face twisted with fury. He grabbed her arm as she tried to swing again and slapped her back. Maria fell unconscious. I watched the entire altercation from above. Victor quickly tied her up, while the swell on Maria's face grew, distorting the once radiant features into ones of sheer disgrace. I couldn't help but find it all amusing. Maria, oh Maria, should I say you're blind to the truth? I wish you hadn't passed out to see how vicious the man you idolized and loved could be. Before long, Maria came to. Same place, still home. The man on the couch scrolled his phone, then walked over with a knife once he saw she was awake. Don't push me, Maria. I just want to stay alive. He pressed the knife to her neck, forcing her to transfer money. But her bank accounts didn't satisfy him, so he leaned the knife in closer. If that chick's dad hadn't gone bankrupt back then, I wouldn't have come back to you anyway. For years, your temperament has been the worst I've seen in any woman, but thankfully, your looks and figure are still nice. Victor smirked, reaching towards her chest. One thing I've always assumed she knew. When Maria's family nearly went bankrupt, I asked my parents to help. When Mike mentioned Victor was after her, I paid him off to leave. Victor agreed and went after the daughter of a major corporation's CEO. When our families discussed a partnership and hit it off, they decided to pair me and her together. That's why she thought my family had forced it. Had I known your family would get rich, I wouldn't have taken that money. That was a big mistake. Victor sounded a bit regretful. I'm gonna find someone abroad to treat me since I can't find a doctor here. Don't worry, once I get the money, I won't bother you again. Someone like you who lied and caused all this misery should suffer. You're dying now, and that's your karma. Maria glared at him, spat those words. Better not test me. Do what I said, or I can't guarantee your safety, Victor said, waving the knife at her. Maria was forced to text her parents she was kidnapped and a ransom was needed. To make it seem real, Victor even made her take a selfie and send it. But I noticed, just as she took the selfie, Maria pressed the side button and volume key at the same time. This is what I taught her before, how to text the emergency contact. But the next second, the light in her eyes faded. Seems like she remembered. The emergency contact, which was me, is now gone. There's no one left to save her now. Maria's parents agreed to the deal. They planned to meet at the pond by the community gate tomorrow morning. Hand over the person, hand over the money. Soon night fell. For insomniacs, nighttime is no different than day. But regular folks can't stand it for long. Just when Victor couldn't help but close his eyes, the door was unlocked from the outside. He woke up quickly, but the people around him were quicker. A swarm of cops surrounded him, and behind them stood Mike and Maria's parents. One knife was no match for these countless gun barrels, especially for someone who's so afraid to die. After the police took Victor away, Mike left quietly, seeing that the matter was resolved. Maria's parents hugged her, crying in lingering fear. They were heartbroken she had just lost her husband and now faced this. They insisted on staying with her, but Maria firmly refused. Too much has happened recently. I want some peace alone. I knew she saw the text she sent on their phones. And that, too, was my previous handiwork. I clearly saw the guilt and deep regret on her face. That's good. The more guilty she feels, the more sleepless nights await her. Let her live with the guilt of my death day and night. What I didn't expect was her first act of freedom. She went straight to a phone repair shop to recover the backup data. Maybe my prayers were heard because the voice memos Victor deleted couldn't be restored. For whatever reason, I'm satisfied with this outcome. Her extremely disappointed look is exactly what I hoped for. I've always said, once something's lost, it's gone for good. Just like this phone data. Just like her and me. We're supposed to be accountable for our actions in this life. She stumbled back home. Without those recordings, she couldn't sleep anymore. If anything, she used to at least manage a few hours of peace. Now, constant insomnia feels like a curse to her. It made her migraines worse. She tried all sorts of ways, but nothing worked. Lack of rest made her mood even worse. Her mom, seeing it, took her to the hospital for a checkup, including a visit to psychiatry. The result was severe depression. She ignored the tears her parents wiped away and the hair that fell as they brushed each strand. She started searching the house for any trace of my existence. Even a chocolate I once put in her bag would be kept as a treasure. But more often during sleepless nights, she started banging her head against the wall as if it would make her feel better. Neighbors came over countless times, knocking on their door. Her parents apologized every evening and softly explained. Eventually, everyone got used to it, until one day the news came from the police station. Victor was sentenced to over 15 years in prison for his previous large-scale fraud and the kidnapping this time.